Today I'm going to tell you why the Fujifilm 70-300 is one of my favorite lenses and might actually be my favorite lens for a certain type of photography. Welcome back everybody. Today I'm out here in the local woodland just trying to find some pictures with this lens right here, and yeah, I'm just going to spend the evening, see if I can find anything, and if I do, I'll show you. So what I'm doing here today is not really a review, at least not a technical review of this lens. I'm rather talking about my experience with it, because I received my copy of it about 1 year ago, and I was actually I was on the wait list for the lens for about 6 to 7 months. So in 2022, in January, I ordered it and received it, I think, in July, pretty sure early July, something like that. And primarily I wanted it to shoot a motorsport Formula 1 event that I was planning to go to, but also to just shoot landscape photography, being able to pick out like small details in the landscape. While being on the wait list for this lens for a good 6 to 7 months, I was looking into different kinds of photography that you could do with this lens, and I found something rather surprising to me, is that a lot of people recommend shooting woodland photography with a telephoto lens. And I looked at a couple of different pictures that people took and I liked them, but I didn't really understand why you would use a telephoto lens for woodland photography until a couple of days back when I was walking in this exact woodland and also shot some pictures, or one specific picture that I'm also going to show you. And yeah, I finally found out why people recommend using a telephoto lens for woodland photography. So I came up with two different reasons why I find it really enjoyable using a telephoto lens, or rather specifically the 70-300 from Fujifilm for woodland photography. And first of all being that you have to at least use the focal length 70mm, which I think in full frame equivalent is something about 105mm, which is quite far zoomed in already. And I didn't really think about using a focal length like this for woodland. I used to use, or I still use, the 16-80mm that I have from Fujifilm a lot too. But when I'm out in the woodland, I never really think about zooming in as far as 70 or even 80mm. So I don't really get the entire perspective of what you can shoot with a focal length like this. So when using a telephoto lens for woodland photography, in comparison to using a standard zoom or a wide-angle lens, you get a completely different experience, because you don't get the entire scene obviously in your composition. You just focus on small little details, which doesn't specifically mean macro photography, but rather you focus on smaller intimate scenes. For example, a scene that I shot that kind of opened my eyes to the entire telephoto in woodland is like a tree trunk. You actually also see the branches, but not the entire tree, and there are ferns around it. I'm not sure if there was something on the tree, I can't remember exactly if there's like moss on the tree, but you just focus in on those smaller details and it makes for quite a good image, I think. So I'm definitely going to try using my telephoto lens for woodland photography more. I'm just going to show you the picture that I shot the other day, and you can just judge for yourself if you like it or not. There's of course also the obvious, which would be shooting macro photography or near macro photography. That's why I said not just the telephoto lens, but specifically the Fujifilm 70-300, as it has a reproduction ratio of I think 1:2, so it's halfway there to macro photography. I don't have a dedicated macro photography lens, so I just use this if I want to dabble in macro photography, which is not very often, but especially in woodland. Sometimes maybe in winter or early spring, when there's not that many colors in the entire forest, you want to try to focus more on like the small details, and the lens is perfect for doing that, because you can actually, I shot, I think it was this winter, a couple of images with the 70-300 that I really liked. I can just show you like a leaf and also mushrooms blooming out of a tree, like a little hole in the tree. And I really liked those pictures because there was not much around to actually shoot in the woodland. So this lens is perfect for that, to just find different compositions that you wouldn't think of otherwise. So for me, it's not at all about having this reach of 300mm or 450mm full frame equivalent for woodland photography. That's also what I thought was a bit weird when looking at what you could do with this lens, why people recommended using a telephoto lens for woodland photography. It's not about that, not having the reach. It's about having to use at least, in my example, 70 millimeters focal length, and you honestly get a whole different feeling of shooting a woodland, because you just can't shoot these wider scenes. You have to focus in on those smaller details, and especially when I'm out with only my camera and the lens on, and well, I usually take my backpack, but oftentimes I just take the camera and the lens out of the backpack and put the backpack back on my back. I'm just walking around. And in these cases, oftentimes you just have to focus on the smaller details, and you can't shoot a wide scene because then you have to put the backpack down, change lenses and everything. And that's oftentimes a bit too much of a hassle. So I just try finding compositions with the lens I have on my camera at this moment, and I find it really enjoyable trying to do this with a telephoto lens. In a way, shooting woodland photography with a telephoto lens is just like what I talked about a couple of videos back, when I talked about shooting only with a prime lens. Doesn't matter if it's a woodland photography or landscape photography or street or whatever. It's really about having the limitation, because I think limitation enhances your photography as it makes you think outside of the box. So in conclusion, there are two different reasons that you should definitely try out shooting woodland and landscape photography with your Fujifilm 70-300, in my opinion at least. First of all, being obviously you have the limitation of at least shooting the focal length of 70 millimeters, which I think makes for quite unique images that you wouldn't imagine shooting if you wouldn't use the telephoto lens. At least that's what I have found for myself. And second reason being that specific to the 70-300, of course, you can shoot almost macro-like pictures, which can be a real benefit if you have seasons where you just don't have that much color in the forest. Maybe it's all very barren, and you can just focus in on like the smaller details, maybe like a fallen leaf or something like that, and you can actually create quite beautiful images. So I can only advise you trying out woodland and landscape photography with your telephoto lens. So that's it from me for today. I really hope you liked this video, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you'd give me a thumbs up. If you have any thoughts or questions about using a telephoto, or specifically the 70-300 for woodland photography or anything really, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your opinions about it. If you want to see more videos like this, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel. Yeah, that's it from me for today. Have a good one. Bye.